One, two, three. Welcome, everybody. I'm excited. Today, we're going to be talking about YouTube ads. And here's the deal. YouTube ads have a tremendous amount of reach. They're super powerful if you know how to do it right. And my guest today is going to show us how to do it right. How to make YouTube ads work cheaper and better than Facebook ads. How to target your audience. The components of making a good YouTube ad. So come on in, hang out, and let's grow your business right now. Today I'm being joined by Aleric. He is the founder and CEO of Ad Outreach. Ad Outreach exclusively works with YouTube ads. Aleric started on YouTube 10 years ago by building the largest app review channel on the platform, AppFind, with over 400,000 subscribers. He discovered the power of YouTube ads 5 years ago and ran highly profitable campaigns for dozens of companies all over the world. Now he helps entrepreneurs like you and, I should say, like me and you, market your business, scale your business. And the great thing about what he's gonna teach us today is that you can go local, like let's say that you're a plumber or an attorney and you're geographically bound, or you can scale nationally or internationally. So you're gonna really enjoy this program. Aleric, welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Bert. I'm excited to dive into it.
You know, one of the things that I find fascinating about this is that you started 10 years ago doing app reviews. I mean, talk about a very niche market. And it's like, how did you even come up with that for a channel?
Absolutely. So it's actually kind of a funny story. So, you know, it was back in 2009, you know, the iPod Touch and iPhone had just came out. And I don't even think it was like an iPhone that I had right at the beginning. It started out as that, you know, that first generation iPod Touch. And then after that, I think it was the iPhone that came after that. And I was just, you know, reviewing the different applications that I found useful, you know, fun games that I found. And I was just having a good time giving recommendations. It started out just, you know, trying to give recommendations to some of my friends, different people that were watching videos. Before that, I had kind of built, like a lot of people at the time, right? As when YouTube was early on, I had kind of built like a sketch comedy channel, and those definitely wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't hold the test of time, of course. But then I started doing these app reviews and I started to take off. And so I created a channel specifically around that, AppFind. And, you know, I was doing that you know, while I was going through, you know, literally while I was going through school and then into college. And, you know, I was basically creating all of these videos on different apps. And I remember it started to snowball, right? We were getting, you know, all of a sudden thousands of views, and then tens of thousands, 100,000, and millions of views. And so, you know, we ended up becoming the largest app review channel on YouTube. You know, and or that's dedicated to app reviews specifically. And, you know, today it has over 450,000 subscribers. You know, it's actually kind of funny. I turned it into, I'd read the book, you know, The 4-Hour Workweek when I was in college. And I basically turned it into that, you know, 4-hour work week, right? I basically was able to hire video editors, script writers, a business development person to handle all of our email business inquiries. And all of a sudden, I kind of had this assembly line that was producing app review videos. You know, I wouldn't even have to write it or film the apps. Like, I could just be the voice, you know, behind it and just record all of that in a batch. And everything else would get created. And so what that allowed me to do, especially when I was in college, was explore different areas, different opportunities. And so we had one particular app, was a social media networking app that had sponsored our channel, because we got hundreds of different applications to sponsor us. You know, they would basically have us produce a video about their app or incorporate their app into another video we were doing. And we posted the video. They got thousands of users, you know, tens of thousands of views. They were like, this is great. Can you post the video again? You know, they basically wanted me to just re-upload the exact same video, and they were willing to pay me, like, you know, just pay me to do another. I'm like, No, I don't want to like, I don't want to just, take another sponsorship and just re-upload, because you're not going to get the same amount of results if I just posted to the same people.
Right.
I want to make sure that you're going to be happy with these promotions. And so we started going back and forth. They said, well, there must be some way. Can you, just tweet it out more? What can you do to get more people to watch this video? And that's when I started to experiment. This is like 5-6 years ago, with YouTube ads. And so I said, well, what if we run a YouTube ad to this video that talks about this social media app? And they were a little skeptical at first, but they gave us, a $500 budget. We take that and we run it. And in just 1 week, for $500, get over 11,000 users for their app.
Wow. That's incredible for $500. I mean, I don't even know how to do the math on that one, but that's a ridiculous return. That is very powerful. And this was all an experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to point this out, because every now and then I'll have somebody ask me, hey, when is it, when did you feel comfortable charging for your consulting? Or when did you feel comfortable that you could, make a living as a marketing consultant? And that's one of the things I tell people, is that sometimes you just got to be upfront with people and say, listen, I've never done this. I've never handled this kind of brand or this kind of ad, but I'll do it for you cheaper than anybody else, and we'll learn together. And depending on who your client is, they might roll the dice with you, just like you experienced there. And long as I think somebody is, is transparent and they're hungry and they're willing to, work for the results, then it's a win-win for everybody. So to me, that's just a great way to grab a new client and really learn on their budget, learn on their dime. What a fantastic opportunity.
Exactly. And then that brings more opportunities, because, it was really, and just because as I was explaining the story, like, it was actually a performance marketing company that was kind of the middleman, right, between, and that was the person I was dealing with. They were dealing with the app, and they said, well, this is great. And so that brought more opportunities. So then they're like, okay, we have this bigger app. And the second app that I ran a promotion for, it basically became like a unicorn, like $1 billion, company, obviously very small, like impact, like on my side, but running some YouTube ads for a period of time. But at the same time, it was like that was a big major opportunity to work with, an even bigger application, one that would really go on to a lot of success in the future. And so, what I started to see is like, wait a second, I have something. So I went back to all of the different contacts that I had done, app promotions with, because I'd done hundreds of those, right? And those were kind of very classic deals. You pay some money to get a feature, a brand integration or sponsorship, and then I would do a video. And I went back to them, I said, hey, here's what I'm building. Here's a case study. Here are the results. And so, at that point, that's when we started to get, dozens of these apps to become, marketing clients. And we drove millions of downloads, work with a lot of different app developers. But then I started to kind of open my mind to a little bit more. And so it was actually when I was at the HubSpot Inbound conference. This was actually just about four years ago now. This was 2016, right here in Boston. Where I'm based out of. And I remember going there, and I found the ClickFunnels booth. And a lot of people watching or listening, you might be familiar, obviously, with ClickFunnels, funnel builder. You can basically create a lot of your marketing materials, your landing pages, lead pages off of that. And it started to click that, wait a second, I can actually build a funnel behind this. I can use my advertising knowledge to drive people to a funnel. And so at the time, I did advertisements to drive people to a funnel, mostly app developers. And then they watched a webinar and they became a client. But then as I got into this ecosystem and, I found, different mentors and different coaches and consultants that I hired, I started to have more and more people in these different masterminds I was joining ask me, wait a second, how are you doing that? How are you using YouTube ads instead of Facebook ads to get clients? Especially high ticket clients. And so that kind of snowballed into, what it is today. And obviously we work with a lot of different ranges. A lot of our clients do fall into, coaches, consultants, course creators, info product space, but we also have a lot of people in a variety of different industries as well, from real estate to, to e-commerce, to all kinds of different, different things that people sell. But what I really have found is YouTube ads, if you can advertise on Facebook, you can advertise on YouTube. And oftentimes, and the majority of the cases that I've been able to help clients with, you can advertise on YouTube a lot more efficiently. And that's what I'm excited to get into now. And that's what we've been scaling up. It's just been an incredible journey. And the last thing I'll add is it's a done with you process. I've just found that works so well, kind of more of that, consulting style focused, right? Where, it's hands-on with our team, but also training focused. So we're training, the business owners and the marketing directors, on teams, how to use YouTube ads, but we're also working hands-on with them at the same time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right. So like in my experience with Facebook, is that sometimes you have like this, the more you run an ad, you get this kind of ad blindness, right? And so, or ad fatigue, where your numbers start dropping. Same thing with YouTube, or is it different?
So it's actually different, and there's a scientific reason for that with the way that YouTube actually works. So on Facebook, the reason you get ad fatigue is you're paying for every impression. Every time somebody is scrolling past that ad, you're paying for that, right? So if somebody scrolls past an ad, because they've seen it before and they're not interested and you haven't captured their attention that time, you're still paying for it. Versus on YouTube, you're only paying if somebody watches more than 30 seconds of that ad. And so, it's one of those things, a lot of people don't know that. You can skip the ad between 5 and 29 seconds. So if somebody skips that ad, then the advertiser doesn't pay for it. You only pay if they watch, more than 30 seconds. That's considered a true view of that advertisement. And so if you're running an ad on YouTube and people have seen the ad before and they're not interested, they're going to click skip right off the bat. And so you're not actually going to pay that additional money for somebody to view it. You're only going to pay when they actually watch it. And that's how you can really scale your advertising campaigns up, because it kind of has this built-in fail-safe. Whereas with Facebook, people scrolling past your ad, you're paying for it, right? So you're paying for that negative action. On YouTube, you have a fail-safe built in where if people skip the ad, you're not paying for it. So it actually allows you to have that fail-safe that allows you to scale without worrying about facing some of these impacts. And the other thing that I'll say too that helps ad fatigue as well is just changing the first 15, 30 seconds, or especially 30 seconds, right? Because that's when you pay for it, of the ad. You could just have different variations that you can run, and then the rest of the ad can all be the same. We'll talk about that when we get into how to craft that winning YouTube ad.
I love it. I love it. That's great. All right. So let's start with this. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making when they're starting their YouTube ads?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest mistakes is just by doing a really short advertisement, right? So a lot of people, they see all these big, big companies, Geico and Ford and all of these, different major companies that are in corporations that are just doing these 30-second, they're basically just taking TV or television ad spots and they're putting it on YouTube. But that's not efficient for those of us, which, the people that are watching this right now, who want direct response. You want people to take action today. It's not about branding and just getting your company name to every single person in the United States. It's about how can you reach that ideal prospect, get in front of them, show them you have the solution, and get them to convert right now. And so what we found is that the winning YouTube ad length is actually between anywhere from 2 to 6 minutes long, with that sweet spot being 3 or 4 minutes. And
Wow.
exactly. And so a lot of people wouldn't know that. So they'd have the misconception that what a lot of people do when they start off, let's say you're trying to get people to sign up for a webinar. What a lot of people do is they just say, hey, do you have this problem? Okay, go sign up to my webinar. I'll show you how to fix it. But there's no additional substance, right? Even if people do click on that ad, and even if they do sign up for the webinar, which again, you're going to have less people doing that if it's not as compelling to do so, if they don't actually have a taste of what they'll get, they're far less likely to show up, right? And actually attend and pay attention. So what we found is there's 3 key components to a winning YouTube ad. The first is a hook. Now, a good hook doesn't just pull the right people in, it also repels and pushes the wrong people away. And so what you want to do is you want to pull in the right people, push away the wrong people, so that you're only capturing those that are genuinely interested. Because if in the first 30 seconds you push away the wrong people, they skip the ad, remember, you're not paying for it. So pulling in the right people, pushing away the wrong people. Then from there, you want to actually provide value, educate. This is what a lot of people leave out. You said what is one of the most common misconceptions is people think that you should save all your education for down the funnel somewhere else. But if you can educate people and paint yourself, your company, or if it's a product, your product or service or whatever it is, as the expert, as the definitive solution, on the ad, you start indoctrinating people sooner, and you actually start to build your yourself and your company, their reputation and authority in the prospect's mind. So what you can do is, I love, if you're an expert-based business, and those are kind of, consultants, coaches, course creators, like, where you're teaching something, actually provide, what are the 3 big keys, right? You don't need to get deep into them, but what are some of these big aha things that you're going to show them on a webinar or on a presentation? Now, if you're selling a product or a service, or even if you're in something like real estate or mortgages, right? How can you differentiate yourself, right? What is it that you can bust as a misconception? Actually, it's kind of funny, we're talking about misconceptions. What is it that you can show that is your competitive advantage? If it's a product, what does your product do better than any other product out there? How can you get across that message in the educate section? And then finally, you have the call to action. This is actually the one that people overcomplicate. So this one's the simplest. You just need to make it stupid simple. What's the next step? Are they going to click here? And then what do they need to do on the next page? Where do they need to go to take action? So that's the formula. It's the hook, educate, which is really important, and then call to action.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm excited that you're saying that the sweet spot is between 2 and 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. And what a great advantage over a static ad, a display ad, even a Facebook ad with a video, to be able to sit there and engage, as you said, the right audience for 2, 4, 5, 6 minutes, and really start building that rapport, that like bonding with them, right? And being able to connect with that individual. And as you said, you become the go-to person. Your product becomes the go-to product because now they've seen it and they want to know more. And so I love that. So it's the hook, and then educate or deliver value, and then the call to action. And that's awesome. Now, so when you're starting off, do you recommend people putting a script together and kind of following a script, or how would I go about doing an ad?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So what I have found is putting together a script, but not trying to follow it verbatim, right? So you want to have an outline of all the key points, and sometimes it works differently for different people. So sometimes you just want to have bullet points and an outline. That's typically what I do because I'm really good at kind of ad-libbing around an outline. Now, I don't want to completely wing it from scratch and like have no idea what I'm going to say. Most people aren't good with that. But depending on your level of comfort, I'm actually going to do better by having bullet points and then filling in the blanks than if I try to read everything verbatim, because then you kind of get a little bit caught up on saying this exact word or that exact word. But on the other hand, there are people that are really good at memorizing and kind of that rote memorization, where you can actually just script out exactly what you're going to say. Just make sure if you do it that way that you're writing it as you'd say it, because sometimes you write. Not sometimes, I mean, it's true. Like you write very differently than you speak. So you need to write knowing that those words are going to be read aloud. You're going to say those words aloud. There's 2 main ways to do it. And that's what we also have in our program as well is, you can either do more of an outline and then fill it in with your own knowledge, but making sure that you hit each of these key points. Or what you can do is actually script it all out, but making sure that you script it as you would read it.
Gotcha. Yeah. What's interesting is I've heard so many people say, well, I don't like to do a script. It seems unnatural. And I think that, it's because they lack experience, real experience. Because if you look at some of our favorite movies, they're all scripted. Even our favorite commercials, they're scripted. And you're right. There's some people who are better at memorizing the entire script. And then there's some people who do the bullet point, and so you have some flexibility and you can personalize it your way. I think that's perfect. All right, so let me ask you this. I could see people saying, hey, I wouldn't mind doing a YouTube ad, but I don't have the equipment. I mean, it sounds like it takes a lot of equipment. What's the background on the equipment?
Yeah, I love that question too, because that's actually what a lot of people, they have that misconception, right? That they need a huge fancy studio, they need to hire, videographers to come in, they need the big lights and everything. But here's the thing, we've actually found, and we've done a lot of testing on this, that natural works better, right? Because YouTube's a natural platform. People are used to people turning on the camera and, talking to them and having that person face to face. Think about it, like when we're talking about television commercials, TV commercials, we're all accustomed and attuned to tuning those out. If something looks overly produced and scripted, what do? You know, if we're watching like TV or whatever, a sports game, you know, we go into the other room, we make a little snack, something like that, right? When the TV commercials come on. And what a lot of people do on YouTube when they see that kind of classic TV commercial and they can skip the ad, is they go ahead and they skip it, right? But what you want to do is you want to, and again, you're not paying for that. So there's a lot of built-in buffer with YouTube, which is crazy. I mean, it's like unlike any other platform. It's crazy in that way.
That right there, that's like, to me so far, the number one thing I like, that the first 30 seconds, you're not paying for the first, whatever, 29 seconds for sure. You can build a lot of rapport in 29 seconds. And, you know, I think it's happened to all of us where maybe you see an ad and you don't really respond to it because you're distracted or you're looking for something. But then you see that ad, you know, the 5th time, the 10th time, and you say, hey, you know what? I've seen this person, you know, a bunch of times. Let me sit down a couple of minutes and listen to what they're saying because I find some of it intriguing. And all of a sudden you go from not watching it to watching it completely and maybe taking action. So I love the fact that, hey, the first 30 seconds are kind of free.
Exactly. And it's crazy. And so, you know, kind of looping back to being able to film it and being natural, you know, one of my favorite things is you could take a iPhone gimbal. So a gimbal is a tool, and I know you probably know this, but for those of you watching or listening, it basically stabilizes your phone regardless of where your hand moves, in order to create a much more professional looking shot, even just using something as simple as your iPhone. So you take your iPhone and you take a gimbal and you connect it on there, it's going to stabilize it. Then what you like to do is you can plug in either a lapel mic, or they also have some of these little like mini microphones. I prefer the ones that actually, you know, you can kind of connect, right? More of a lapel style, but you can also do, you know, a mini microphone in there, or even if you need to, you just use AirPods. You really want kind of the basic setup. You know, obviously that's not recommended if you're looking to just go that extra notch, right? And use more of a different, more professional microphone, but you just add that stabilization microphone, and then you just make sure the lighting is kind of facing towards you. You're not overly, you know, but basically just make sure that you kind of have more of that natural lighting. You're not too dark, but you're also not too lit up either. It's kind of, you know, we have some recommendations on that as well. But as long as you get those things down, right, the basics around video, sound, and lighting, and then you have a script that you're following, that's all you need. And you can do that on a very, very tight budget. You probably have all the tools minus a gimbal and a little simple lapel microphone that you can connect to your iPhone. And then that's all you need to add in order to craft a winning YouTube ad.
Man, I love that. I love that. You know, I grew up in Houston, Texas, and there was a gentleman in Houston, Texas. He's got a nickname named Mattress Mac. And so if you go Google Mattress Mac, his commercials are very unprofessional. In fact, his first, I want to say 30 or 40 commercials, he said that he didn't have a big budget. And so the only time they would give him an affordable price at the studio is like at midnight. So he would go to the studio at midnight. He's unshaven. He has no acting skills. And he stole one of his phrases from a Toyota commercial where they were jumping up and down saying, you know, Toyota will save you money. And so his whole, you know, so that's how he would end his commercial. Come on down to Gallery Furniture. Gallery Furniture will save you money. And bottom line is, it turned his business around. And they were unprofessional, unscripted. Just people used to make fun of his commercials. Well, you know, you fast forward, he still does the commercials the same way because people find him more authentic. And he's got a multi-billion-dollar business. His Gallery Furniture is this huge, it takes up a whole block, and it's incredible. And I'm just kind of emphasizing that, you know, if he would have waited until he was shaven, until he coulda, woulda, shoulda, then he probably would have lost his business. And sometimes we get so stuck in our heads that we're not ready. We don't have this, we should have that. And we don't take action, and we lose our sales, or we lose our business, or whatever. So sometimes you just got to go for it.
Exactly. And you'd be surprised the amount of times I've had the exact same story happen where somebody films a video quickly. They say, this is going to be the draft. We're just going to test it. We're going to film more professional versions once we know what our targeting is. And then they launch their ads, and all of a sudden they're getting, you know, 5, a 10x ROAS, like not exaggerate. One of these I'm thinking of right now, a specific instance, right? They're literally getting over 10 to 11x return on their ad spend. They were selling a course. And they were just walking down the beach. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna redo this. You know, it wasn't even a sunny day on the beach. It was so funny, right?
Right.
And they walked down. They did the same thing with the iPhone and the gimbal. They actually thought they were gonna hire like a videographer and all this other stuff. They were just gonna do this to test the targeting, and that's the ad that not only they ran, but they scaled, and they did millions of dollars off of that one ad. And so, and there's a lot of other stories just like that, not necessarily the same scale, but where people, you know, it's funny, the amount of times that we've been told, this is just a draft. We want to see how this is going to work with the targeting, and then we'll film something better. And then it just really works, and you scale from there because it's natural.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what people look for. You mentioned that people are not looking for the, you know, the production Hollywood quality commercial. In fact, those are the ones that I think people tend to skip over, as opposed to we have tons of videos with, you know, it looks like the guy's walking through his house or the girl's walking through the house saying, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do. And if you have this problem, you know, click here and I'll help you, whatever. And, you know, they're just walking around. And I think the difference is knowing your stuff. You mentioned that one of the things that you like to do is have bullet points. And if you know your stuff, then you can do it off bullet points. And the more you know your stuff, the more the more flexibility you have. The less you know your stuff, then I think that's when you really have to remember the script and kind of, you know, pace yourself and all that other stuff. But I love this idea of just being natural and authentic and having fun with it. You know, I remember the first time I tried to do this wasn't even a YouTube ad, this was a YouTube intro. And I was so hung up in my head trying to get this right and trying to get that right. It was like a 30-second script. It took me like 4 hours to do because I was so much in my head.
Exactly. But then once you become natural and you start to do it, you see how valuable, how impactful it is. And then you can keep doing more and more. You know, it's very similar to, you know, kind of the concept of doing an organic post. And I'm sure a lot of people who are on here have, you know, a lot of people on here are already probably doing organic posts, but remember that first time you did it, right? And, you know, you're like, oh, I don't know what to write. And you maybe overthought it a lot. But then once you did it, you're like, wait a second, that wasn't that hard. You know, you can do it again, or go doing your first live stream, right? If you've done a Facebook Live or, you know, whatever it happens to be, or uploading your first YouTube video, you know, the natural works because people resonate with it. And it's the exact same thing with advertisements. People think because obviously there's, you know, this dollar amount behind it, right? You're running it as an ad, that it's different. But remember, it's just you know, the advertising dollars that you put behind is just the gasoline that you're pouring on the fire of what is a piece of content you want more people to see.
Right. I love that. All right, so let's talk about targeting. You mentioned targeting, and this was, I think, an area where whether you're running Facebook ad, Google ads, or in this case, YouTube ads, people don't understand or they really mess up the targeting. So talk a little bit about the targeting and some of the targeting features that you like about YouTube.
Absolutely. So the biggest mistake that people make, and I see this across the board, is people advertise in only 2 dimensions, right? So they only advertise, and those 2 dimensions that I'll say, right, is people are targeting demographics. So that's basically who somebody is, where they're located, you know, their age, different details about them. And then the other one is based on, and this is on Facebook more so, would be interests and kind of audiences, right? And affinities, right? What pages they like, lookalikes, things like that. It's 2 dimensions, but Facebook has to fill in that 3rd dimension, right? What is somebody doing right now, right? So you know who they are, you know what their interests are, what they like, but you don't know what they're actually doing right now. And that's where the algorithm comes in. So when you say have people who say the Facebook algorithm one day is really favoring me, the next day it's not, it's really all about when you reach those people. You know they're at least interested in the type of thing that you have because you did interest targeting, you did lookalikes. But when do you actually reach them, right? You could reach them at the perfect time, or you could reach them right before they're about to get in their car and, you know, go drive off somewhere, and you're not going to actually be able to get them to take action. And so what we found on YouTube is people are like, wow, wait a second, you can target people based on what they're doing right now. And also they do demographics, right? So who that person is, location, and actually household income is a lot better on YouTube. They used to have that on Facebook, but they kind of got rid of it. So on YouTube, you could do household income still, which is very valuable, especially, you know, if you're trying to sell something more higher ticket, you can use that household income. But what I've found over here is a lot of people do 2 dimensions on YouTube. So they'll target the video somebody's watching and kind of the basic demographics about them. But they forget that there's a 3rd dimension on YouTube. Now, why do you need a 3rd dimension on YouTube? Because when you're just targeting, the big mistake that I've seen people make is they either target way too narrow or way too broad. And then I'll talk about how to actually pinpoint the right people every time, but have it be scalable. So what people will do oftentimes when they start to go on YouTube is they'll just target placements. They'll basically just choose 100 different videos. There's different software tools that you do this. And you're like, I want to target in front of this video, this video, this video, this video. The problem with that is you can get a lot of low-hanging fruit. But when you go to scale it, you're going to have a lot of problems scaling it because you're only targeting a very small amount of videos and they're constantly recycling. Remember, videos or the videos on YouTube that you're running in front of are organic. So it's the same thing I talked about, right? They're not always getting a lot of views. They kind of get a lot of views when they first come out, and then there's a trickle of views over time. So what we have found is people then they go, okay, well, I want to scale. So now I'm going to do these keywords, which is basically a collection of videos with the same, you know, keyword or tag or details inside of it, or topics, which is an even bigger collection of videos. A good example there is you have a video that is by this specific channel. So placement is a video by the specific channel on how to lose weight. You have a keyword, how to lose weight, right? So now you have a collection of videos that, you know, have that keyword, or you could have a topic, health and fitness, for instance. And so the problem when people do the keywords and topics, even though they're heading in the right direction, like we'll talk about in a second, is they're too broad, right? So they have a lot of scalability. You can scale these campaigns to the moon. You can spend infinite amounts of dollars on these, but they aren't as targeted as you want. They're not as targeted as those individual videos that you know has your audience. And so you're going to reach everybody that's looking up how to lose weight. And it might not be that ideal person. Let's say you're trying to look up, you know, trying to reach a business owner. They have a reason. They want to grow their business. They want to have more energy. And this is a real example from one of our clients, right? They want to reach, you know, business owners who were, you know, had the ability to purchase a high ticket program, right? So higher income business owners looking to lose weight, right? That's a very specific industry. And so what we were doing is you can add a 3rd dimension on YouTube. So like we talked about demographics, intent, right? So that's the videos that they're watching and who they are as a person. You can also layer household income. So what we do for a lot of high ticket is we layer top 10, 20, 30% of household income earners. But then you can add a 3rd dimension, which is audiences and affinities. And a lot of people don't know you can do this on YouTube. YouTube is owned by Google. And Google has built out these massive profiles on people the same way that Facebook has. So they can tell the websites you visit, the things you search on Google, not just on YouTube, but also on Google. So you can build out these audiences the same way you can on Facebook with people who, you know, have an interest in these different things. So business owners, people who are in the market for advertising. You could target people who have done recent Google searches on something particular. I love, you know, targeting people who have been on the ClickFunnels, you know, website, or they looked up ClickFunnels in the past, right? Because that's a lot of our audience. But there's a huge array of different things. You know, we have real estate people that are targeting people who are moving soon or in the market for real estate or a new home, right? There's all of these different targeting options, but now you're pinpointing exactly the right person. You have the 3 dimensions. You have the demographics. You know that they're, you know, they fit what you're looking for. They also have the household income to afford it. That's especially important for high ticket. You're layering it with the videos they're watching right now. And then you're combining that with who they are as a person, their browsing data, everything Google knows about them. And that is how you pinpoint the right person, but also how you scale it. So that's how you create consistent, scalable, and profitable campaigns on YouTube.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. And you're right. I forgot about the whole audience thing, because there are people, for example, if you're selling, you know, you mentioned weight loss. So they have that information to the kind of people, you know, the videos that these weight loss prospects are watching, and what they're watching now and all that other stuff. And so they can, as you said, they can pinpoint that information right there, show them that video. Now, let me ask you this. Does YouTube have a pixel type of what do you call it, snippet like Facebook does?
Yes, they have the Google tag, exactly.
Okay, so why don't you explain, so for some of our audience, if they don't know what a pixel is or a tag is, why don't you explain the value of this tag?
Yeah, so what the tag can do is you can install that on every page on your website so that you can track anybody who's ever gone on your website, opted in, so you can put it on all of your different conversion pages. So if somebody signs up for your email list or for a webinar, for a free training or a PDF or whatever it is, you can actually tag them as having received that piece of content and value. And then you can take all those people and you can either create a lookalike or you can retarget them and reach them everywhere. So that's, one of the final components that I love talking about, right, is retargeting people. So you have all of these people that have been on your website in the past, but because you also know who's purchased, right, or who's booked a call, whatever that final action you want people to take, because you know all of those people, you can take everybody who's been on your site, but they haven't purchased or booked a call, and you can target them in your retargeting campaigns. Now, YouTube retargeting is one of the absolute best deals in advertising. Now, remember how we talked about how, you only pay if somebody watches more than 30 seconds? What a lot of people don't know is those same rules apply for your retargeting ads.
Really?
It's exactly, it's incredible. So you could literally retarget people and you could hit them again and again and again. They could keep seeing your ads. And if they keep skipping, you're not paying for it. You're only paying if they watch that 30 seconds, right, where they're actually interested. They watch for more than that period of time. Maybe they're actually going to take action. And so that's what you are able to do. And I call that, one of the absolute best deals in advertising. And you obviously want to be omnipresent. You want to target people everywhere. That's, another part of what we do as well. You probably spend a whole, podcast talking about omnipresent retargeting too. But YouTube retargeting is just one of the hands down best retargeting platforms because that's the same thing. On Facebook, you're paying for every scroll versus YouTube, you're only paying if they watch that 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's amazing. I want to talk about this, see if you have an opinion on this. Back in the day when I was selling advertising, about 30 years ago, there used to be this thing called the rule of 7. And the rule of 7 was basically that somebody, your prospect, needed to see or hear your ad at least 7 times before they recognized your name, before they recognized your ad and what it was you're selling. Any opinion in the new digital world? Does the rule of 7 still apply? Is it the rule of 15? What's your take?
Yeah, so I would say that's the absolute minimum, and I would say that it's definitely more than that. I would say it's probably going to be more than 15, but the exact amount, I'm not completely positive. And it's also going to depend for individuals, but you definitely need to get in front of people more and more. And so one big thing that we preach with our all of our clients is omnipresent retargeting, being everywhere. Once somebody's gone to your website, you want to show up everywhere online. You want to essentially own their internet. And, especially if you are, high ticket and you're an expert, right? You want to get your name, get your face, get your messages out there. You want to retarget people everywhere. And actually, this is really timely too, because I literally just put together the slide deck and recorded a new webinar on omnipresent retargeting literally yesterday, which is kind of funny. And that's, a big direction that we're going in as well. YouTube ads at top of funnel, bring people in, but then you can think of your omnipresent retargeting as just a gigantic microwave, right? That's always on. So you have all of these leads, they're little kernels that come in. And then what you want to do is you want to turn on the microwave, and it's hitting people from all angles, warming up those leads, right? Showing different pieces of content. You've got your YouTube retargeting ads, your Facebook, you got LinkedIn, you've got Google Display, right? You've got, people who look up your name on Google search, you got those ads as well. And so you're just warming them up through the microwave until they pop, right? And it's consistent. You have the consistent leads that are popping, they're turning into sales. And, it really just adds a lot of consistency, stability, and scalability into a business, and also profitability too, when you have that omnipresent retargeting kind of microwave effect on your leads.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy, because a lot of people simply do not understand that advertising is a process of building trust, of building that relationship. Again, even though we are in a high-tech environment, the foundation of know, like, and trust hasn't changed. And so the way you get somebody to know, like, and trust you is to be everywhere, like you're talking about, that omnipresence, right? And so if you can be there, as they're scrolling through Google or when they're on YouTube or wherever else they might be at, then they start to build a trust. They've seen your brand over and over and over again. And that is the way you grow it quicker, as opposed to they only see your ad, I don't know, once every 30 days. It could literally take you a year or two to bond with that prospect. But now you can minimize that by being everywhere.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
All right. So one of the things that you do, speaking of webinars, is that you actually have a webinar where people can go and check out some of the stuff that we're talking about today, but more in depth. Talk about the webinar and where can they go for the webinar?
Absolutely. So we have a webinar that dives deep into YouTube ads, how you can set that up for your business, exactly what to do, how to craft that winning script. So we'll go through examples. We'll take you under the hood inside of an ads account. We'll show you how that 3D YouTube ads targeting works. So you can go to Ad Outreach, that's ADOUTREACH, adoutreach.com/webinar. And sign up for our webinar on YouTube ads. We're going to dive in, show you exactly how all of that works. And then if you also want to join our Facebook group, we also have another, so we have a huge, Facebook community, over 13,000 people learning YouTube ads, the largest YouTube ads, Facebook community. We're teaching people how YouTube ads work. And then we also have a webinar specifically for coaches, consultants, course creators. So if you're more in the expert space, you can go to adoutreach.com/gift. And you can actually just take a look at all the different links that we have available for you just for listening to this podcast.
I love it. And so for you guys, I will put all these links in the show notes, so you don't have to worry about memorizing it. You can just click on the links that interest you and become more familiar with it. Bottom line is, if you really want to grow your business, you have to advertise. And I'm a big believer that advertising is literally one of those secret formulas, if you will, to growing wealth. It's a situation where you can invest $1 and sometimes get $1.50 back, sometimes get $5 back. And so it's just a matter of learning how to advertise your business. But when you look at the biggest brands, whether it's a coach, somebody like a Tony Robbins, the guy spends millions of dollars on advertising. And a lot of people don't know this, but he's got the longest running infomercials of all time. He's been running an infomercial ad for 40 years. And people forget that he built literally his credibility and his celebrity status off of a paid advertising program called an infomercial. So if you're like a coach, you need to advertise to grow your business. You probably know this better than I do. There's tons of coaches out there and consultants that are starving because they're afraid to spend money to grow their business. And if you're selling a physical product, you have to spend money to grow your business. And if you're too scared to spend money on advertising, you may want to consider a new direction, because without advertising, your business simply will not grow. And there are other forms of advertising. You don't have to do a digital ad or YouTube ad or Facebook ad. You can do the old standby. The way I grew my first business is by dialing and smiling. And it's very effective, but it can wear you out. I mean, you're calling and you're getting hung up on, and it's just it takes up a lot of energy. So, but bottom line is, that is another form of advertising. And so nothing happens without a good ad. And sometimes this is where people get hung up out too. Sometimes it may take you a few hundred or a few $1,000s to come up with a really good ad, right? I mean, the Wall Street Journal has the two-man story, and I think they spent something like $30,000 in 5 or 6 years developing this long-form sales copy about these two men. And one guy subscribed to the Wall Street Journal, one guy didn't. And of course, the guy who subscribed to the Wall Street Journal had this glorious life, right? I mean, but it was the #1 ad for like 20 years. So they spent a bunch of money, and they're trying to figure things out. And this is something that a lot of people really have a tough time, is that advertising is, a lot of it is trial and error. You and I come up with this this ad is going to rock. This is the best ad ever. and it fails. And you just got to start over again. And it's painful, but I don't know what else you do.
Exactly. And oftentimes it's kind of funny how it works. It's the ones that you weren't so sure about. It's that last, hook that you record, or, that last idea that you had that you're like, we'll test this, but I know this other one, this is the one that's going to really work. It's always the one that you just threw in as a flyer, that it seems to be not necessarily always the case, but it's usually the one that you threw in there, and wow, the results just blow you away. But that's always fun and exciting, and it has you always, doing that extra take, that extra version, to see what works.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. This has been such a great episode. A lot of great knowledge bombs, as they say. And if you guys want to reach out to Aleric, you can go to adoutreach.com, or if you want to attend the webinar, and again, I put all the stuff in the show notes, it's adoutreach.com/webinar or /gift if you're a consultant or a coach. And man, I'm looking forward to having you back again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
You bet.